Today, we will be using Plex Express to program a sign, and a couple other features that's included inside of this software. When you first open it, you will be introduced to this screen which shows you signs that you are connected to or have been connected to previously. There's a refresh button over here to refresh the screen in case you aren't already connected to it. You can click that and it should show up your screen. You can also specify it by an IP address here if you know that address. The Plex Express screen is made up of 4 tabs. You have the screens, which shows the screens, solutions, which controls the slideshows that go onto your sign, advanced solutions, which take multiple solutions and allow you to coordinate them on a calendar so that certain ones show during certain days of the week, certain months, certain times of the day. You can get into advanced solutions and set up a lot of very specific scheduling. In the screen control tab, we have a lot of management options that you don't usually need to worry about too much. The primary ones that an end user will worry about the most should be brightness adjustment and time synchronization management. Usually when these signs first boot up, they default to +8 Shanghai, and we want to set them to something a little bit more in our time zone. For me, that would be -6 Chicago. And now I will show you the other screen. Up here, we can actually select those other controls from earlier that we saw on the main Plex Express window. That said that message because I don't actually have any LED modules plugged into the control card that we're using on the sign right now. So, in brightness adjustment, most of what you're going to want to do is actually in the Smart tab. And over here, you schedule brightness specific to a time of day so that you don't blind your neighbors with your beautiful LED display. So at like 6 a.m., we want our sign to be at about 50%, somewhere around there. And about 8 in the morning, I want to go up to 70%. And go ahead and take it to 80 at 9 in the morning. Usually 70 to 80% is about as high as you need to make it for our signs. If there's direct light on it, you might want to turn it up a little over 80. But there usually is no need to because it is so bright. And now I'm going to start turning down the brightness towards the end of the day. This is in 24-hour time. So let's keep that in mind as we set the times. You don't want to set it as if it wasn't 24-hour because it will make it act funny. And for nighttime use, 30 to 40% is usually a good range. Some of them you might even want it lower, around the 20% range, just so you don't blind anyone. After you've made your schedule, make sure you click the apply button down here. Otherwise, what you did will not matter, and it will not be saved to the hardware, and you'll have to do it again. In the Solutions tab, we have a lot of solutions that I've made for some of our clients. We'll go ahead and start with a brand new one. Call the solution name Video. And we'll set our width and display to what's supposed to be our sign. In this case, it's 400 by 400. For your sign, it's going to be different. Now, in this screen, this is where we do the actual editing of slides, putting the images on them, the text that we want, so that we can actually send them to the sign. And there are several controls in here. I'm going to start off by making several new slides, so I have some canvases to work with. I'm going to start stepping through the controls. Up here, these are all objects that contain some type of media that you want on your sign. We have text at the far left, then images, videos, GIFs, digital clock, analog clock. With this one, you can import an Office file like a PowerPoint, and Plex Express will automatically adapt the PowerPoint into a set of slides for your sign. Over here we have what's called real-time media. All this is a temperature display if you have one installed on your sign. If you do not have a temperature probe on your sign, you do not need to use this. This is for weather data pulled off the internet. I'll go ahead and add this one right here. It does a little bit of controls as to where you can select it, but it's mostly just to big cities within a state. So let's go down to Texas. And you can change it to have humidity and current temp instead of average temp, wind, weather forecast. There are a couple of controls for the actual text itself here. You can change the color. And to delete the object itself and not just the content, I actually have to hit delete on my keyboard. To delete the object itself and not the slide, I mean, which is what I tried to click a second ago. Here is for adding an RSS feed to your sign. If you have a website that is regularly updated, you can use this to have the latest updates to your website displayed on your sign. Essentially, an RSS feed is just a short little segment of text that a website sends out whenever it gets updated. It's not too useful for most people's use cases. And this last one is just a container object. Using the container, you can embed other objects inside the container. Okay. So most of what you're going to be doing on your sign is making text objects that have a message for your clients, or putting images up there that have some other type of message for your business. A lot of the time, it's going to be really tempting to just use the text object in Plex Express. It is a little bit limited of a text generation program. It's not definitely what it's made for specifically, but it does have a little bit of text editing that it can do. You can change the basics like font size and color, and you can align paragraphs and all that good stuff. There are a couple of font options here. We have bold, italicize, all that. Play mode is a pretty important option right here. When it is set to appear, when the sign gets to the slide, it will just show the sign based on the transition effect right here. Usually you want no transition just because it looks more professional, but every now and then you can play around with some of these. Find some good transition effects that still look good. Scrolling is for long messages. It will scroll the entire message across the screen, and you can control the speed here. For P16 message boards, the 20 millimeters, I recommend a speed of 2 or higher. Anything, speed of 1, it jumps around a lot. Anything above about 4 or 5, though, also tends to jump, and it doesn't look as good, so keep it to about 2 to 4. 2 to 5. Static. You never want to use static. What this will do is it will make only one slide appear on your sign at all times, and sometimes when it cycles through the entire set of slides, it flickers, and it's just not something you want to happen. So never use static, use appear or scroll. You'll notice up here there's actually another tab to this window that I haven't talked about. It's called Page Properties. You don't need to worry about this one too much. It's mostly here just to hold this page name, so this has a logical name in the software. It also lets you set a slide, though, to have a new play count. So by default, all your slides will have a play count of 1. And if you have a single slide that has like a play count of 2, every time the software cycles through all the slides, that one slide will play an extra time or an extra other time in that one cycle. So whenever you push a solution to the sign, it will cycle through everything once by default, and then it will cycle over again. But now it will cycle this one, and then it'll do another one, and then at some point it'll fit this first one back in, and then it'll finish the third one, and then it'll cycle again. There are a couple more controls right here below our objects. We can zoom in on our canvas so we can see a little bit better, and that resets it to the original size. We can delete just the media here. We can crop it with that button. Let me get another object up here. This is for layering multiple pieces of media on a single slide so that you can have text in front of an image. So you'd want to move your text layer in front of the image layer so that you can actually use it. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit easier to read. Oh, I spelled that wrong. So right now the image is in front of the text, and now the text is in front of the image. That's all layers do. These buttons over here stretch the objects, so that one fills it sideways, vertically, and this one fills it across the entire screen. And then you have some alignment options for aligning objects to the edges of the screen. So like, let's say I wanted this object that I made to go along the bottom right edge of this screen. I would come down here, align right, align bottom, and then I'd stretch it sideways. Now I'm across the entire bottom too. You can also load videos on here. I have a few of them already on this computer. You can do GIFs. Go ahead and show you the digital clock. And in here you can set some specific formatting options, a lot of specific formatting options. You also want to set the time zone here again. It will not always default to what the internal time is. Sometimes it will default back to Chinese time. Depends on which version you are running as to which behavior it will have. We also have the analog clock. I do not recommend putting an analog clock on your sign. It will make people have accidents trying to read it. So there are a few good features here, but to really leverage the most out of the software that you can, the general best practice is to take a good background and put text over it. And this is a good example. Maybe put some clip art behind it to show off what you're trying to sell, like seafood in this example. And then you want to add an outline to your text, like is here, and then a drop shadow right behind that. And this makes the text pop away from the sign a little bit, and it makes it substantially easier to read for people who are driving by. You'll notice that we have nice big letters here that take up a good portion of the screen. They're very easy to read because of the outline. They contrast well with the background. Well, if we want to take an image over here, like we're making it ourselves inside the software, we can already tell that this is not going to go as well as the image that we started with. It's going to look a little bit more tacky than you would like, more than likely. And because the lobster does not have transparency on it, I will actually not be able to layer it with a background image. Yeah, this lobster does not have transparency either, so that's not going to work. Let me delete the image. Anyway, when it comes to the text itself, our ability to edit it is just bold it, italicize it, underline it, change its color. You can also highlight the background behind it to help it contrast. In my opinion, though, it generally does not come out looking that good because your text just has a color behind it. I think the best use of this feature is where you do something like, let's do this. Take this slide, move the text towards the center. Here. Let's make sure it's right in the center. And I'm going to copy it using this copy page button right here. And in this next slide, I will change the background color. It didn't stay. Gotta select the text first. The objects themselves are all pretty straightforward. The other controls on the screen are you can move slides up and down and create new ones. You can copy-paste slides. So let's go ahead and make a slide here. And I'm just changing font colors and sizes just to make it easier to read. And so now I can click this button right here, and I have a bunch of hello worlds. And let's go ahead and delete them. And it does not like me spamming that button. Okay. Up here in the settings, this is the default media duration. Whenever you make a new slide, it will default to last as long as this is set to. Up here we can save the solution that we're making, and we can also save it with a different name so we can keep multiple versions of something. And we'll need that for an example here in a second. Go ahead and save this one as Christmas. Delete that. And this one is what we originally started with. Okay. Just name it something else. Video 2. Okay, so you have a slide. You have a set of slides done. You want to publish it to the sign from this screen. Up here in the top right-hand corner, you hit the green paper airplane. Select the sign. Click publish. And it's that easy. Now your content is already on your sign. In Advanced Solutions, we set up scheduling. So for our first advanced solution, let's say that we want to prepare some slides for Christmas. And we already have those all made up, and we want them to display just around Christmas time. So we're going to set our validity period to custom. And for our end date, we will go ahead and set it for the day after Christmas. And for the start date, we will start on December 1st. Repeat every day, all day. Add. And then let's say I have a New Year's message already made, and we're using video as the example for a New Year's message that is already made. And we want this one to play a few days before New Year's, a few days after New Year's. So select it like that and add. And if we had one that was specifically for right at the moment of New Year's, a nice little set of fireworks shows on the LED display, we could set the time specifically for midnight right here. And now, at the very bottom, we have this drop-down menu that's called Non-Scheduled Content. This is what will be playing on your sign the rest of the time that does not fall into the time periods here. So, before December, we will play this. After the 3rd of January, we will play this. In between the transition from this one to this one, which is basically non-existent in this case, we will play this one. Now we add our advanced solution. And after you've made the advanced solution, you still need to publish it to the sign. And it complained at me because one of those was empty. Okay. Everything else on this screen that you might have to worry about at some point. The time synchronization management, if this is not right, when you do advanced solutions, they will not be right. They will be just as off as the time is on the device itself. Restart right here. You can set it up on a clock to restart, maybe at midnight every night if that's what you'd like. And there's also a button to restart it immediately so that you do not have to go to the breaker panel to do that. In play log, you can see a log of everything that's played on the sign recently and to see if it succeeded or not. This one does not have a play log because it has not been on long enough to generate one. In monitor, there really isn't any useful information in here. It's just some basic diagnostic information to let you know that your CPU is working and your memory is working. In color temperature, if you know what you're doing, you can get in here and you can change the warmth of your display to work a little bit better when it's in direct sunlight. If you do not understand color temperature, so just leave it at the default and it will just look like an LED display. The screen status control, it's just in case you want to black out the screen or display a warning message on it. You can come over here and have it display message. It's kind of like the advanced control to some degree with the ability to display things on specific schedules, but it's kind of like the inverse of the advanced solutions where it defaults to something and then every now and then it picks a slide that you've predefined. This one, it just picks slides that are predefined only. And that's pretty much all of iPlex right there in a nutshell. If you have any questions specifically on how to use this software that were not covered, just send me an email or give me a phone call, and I'll be happy to help you out.